Your good deeds, the kindness you offer, and the love and goodwill you send out will return to you manifold in various ways. Joseph Murphy. He is one of those difficult boss in every workplace. He does everything he wants just because he is related to the CEO. To save the silently enduring subordinates, I decided to stand up, but from the next day, I became the target of harassment. Hey, when do you go to quit? At your age, no one's going to hire you. Looks like a bleak future ahead. What? You'll become homeless if you get fired. When I defended my subordinate, she took a certain action. Her true identity is, my name is Ryan. I turned 43 this year. My job is neither good nor bad. I work in the HR department of a company and have been promoted to manager. Considering my age, it's a late promotion, but I find my job fulfilling and have no particular complaints. Except for one thing. My only problem is my boss, Alexander. He's a so-called figurehead manager who got in for connections. Arrogant and haughty, he doesn't do much work. He claims others' achievements as his own and blames his failures on his subordinates. As a manager, he should be handling a lot of responsibilities, including managing subordinates and complex tasks. But Alexander never does the troublesome tasks himself, always finding plausible reasons to dump them on someone else. Even during busy periods, he doesn't care. When there's trouble, he's the first to leave. Such a boss can't possibly earn the trust of his subordinates, and he's disliked by everyone. Once, a female employee in our department went on maternity leave, and due to the timing, we couldn't recruit new staff in time and had to hire a contract worker. Then, a young woman called Yvonne joined us. She was articulate, asked questions and took notes when she didn't understand something. When she had free time, she would actively help others, and we all talked about how great it was to have her. But the problem, as always, was Alexander. He who casually practiced sexism, dumped all the menial tasks on Yvonne. Making copies, serving tea, organizing supplies, tasks that weren't part of her contract. When I voiced my concerns, Alexander said, "Don't talk back to me. She should be grateful to be employed as a contract worker. Women are just meant to handle the menial tasks. Get back to work if you've understood." Yvonne shook her head and stopped me from arguing. "It's okay, I'm fine. I'll do my best in everything," she said with a smile, and indeed worked hard. I wondered how she could be so dedicated, and it seemed everyone else felt the same. One day, I happened to see female employees chatting in the break room. "Yvonne, I'm really sorry about our terrible boss, Alexander. If it gets too hard, feel free to take a break. Ryan understands these things well." "No, it's fine. Everyone is so kind to me. I enjoy working here. I see this as a challenge. Just because there's one unpleasant person doesn't mean I want to leave all the kind people here. I've even started to find fulfillment in my work." Seeing Yvonne laugh and strike a victory pose made me feel a bit ashamed. Honestly, I was so fed up with Alexander that I even thought about quitting the company, but seeing her, I felt motivated to persevere a little longer here. Making the workplace enjoyable for young people like Yvonne is also a duty of us older folks. I felt a bit more positive. Things were peaceful for a while, but one day, when I returned from an errand, I heard a familiar yelling. Alexander is on a rampage again." Entering the department, I realized Yvonne was the target this time. "How could you make such a mistake? Are you stupid? Just a contract worker after all. Can't you take responsibility for your work?" The usual character assassination. Listening further, it became clear that the mistake wasn't Yvonne's fault at all. It was clearly a result of Alexander's wrong instructions. The mistake was related to the job postings for new hires for the next fiscal year, which contained errors in the number of positions and the monthly salary. Though it was a minor error in just 2 places, it could lead to significant losses. To correct the already published job postings, we would have to request it all over again. Meaning, we'd have to pay double the fee, and even if we got a discount, it would be minimal. Moreover, we would have to re-explain to those who applied based on the initial job posting. Do you think we'd pay a new hire a monthly salary of $4,000 for 3 positions? What's that about? I said only 2. But the voice recorder clearly has you saying to recruit 3 people with a monthly salary of $4,000, Alexander. Yvonne stood her ground. She had been using a voice recorder as a precaution against Alexander, who often changed his statements. That's her smart move. I thought this would force Alexander to admit his mistake. But I was too optimistic. Voice recorder, are you kidding me? That doesn't erase your mistake. I do like this. Cunning woman. Alexander forcefully took the voice recorder from Yvonne and smashed it on the floor. Then, he continued to berate her with nonsensical insults. No one could stop him. Even though it was clear Alexander was at fault, he was hired through nepotism. Besides, he's closely related to President Anderson, so complaining about his tyranny would only lead to our own dismissal. All we could do was silently endure the storm and comfort our battered colleagues. In these times, finding a new job isn't easy, and everyone has their own reasons for working. Even if we wanted to defend someone, we couldn't. That's how it had always been. I've seen many subordinates and colleagues leave because they couldn't bear it anymore. But I had reached my limit. Seeing Yvonne biting her lip, looking down, holding back her tears, I was fed up with making her go through such pain. This is enough. You're the one at fault. It's your mistake. Do you think yelling and pushing the blame onto your subordinates solves everything? As a supervisor, you should naturally take responsibility for your subordinates' mistakes. I was ready to quit anyway. I didn't care if I got fired. But I wanted to help Yvonne, who had rekindled my joy in working, before I left. I stepped in between them, determined. Alexander, who had never been confronted before, was taken aback by my imposing stance. What you're doing is blatant gender discrimination, and as the HR manager, your oppressive attitude is shameful. Have some dignity. I said it. I finally said what I wanted to say. Let whatever happens, happen. Without flinching, I spoke my mind, and Alexander, looking for support, found everyone averting their eyes. Times like these revealed a lack of personal connections. Silently, Alexander grabbed his bag and stormed out with heavy footsteps. I'm sorry I couldn't defend you sooner, Yvonne. It wasn't your mistake. As I spoke to her, Yvonne, perhaps feeling relieved, began to cry softly. An older female employee quickly came over to console her. After some commotion in the department, I went around encouraging everyone to get back to work, and gradually, we all returned to our normal routines. As expected, the harassment began the next day. Important communications were not shared with me. I was informed of false meeting times, and then meetings were held without me, and important documents were shredded. It was so childish that I initially ignored it, but then it escalated to constant sarcastic remarks whenever he opened his mouth. Hey, Ryan, when do you quit? Where do you plan on reapplying? I doubt there's anywhere that would hire someone like you. You're 43, right? What are you going to do? Your future looks bleak. Going to become homeless if you get fired. He would nag and nag, whispering in my ear. If I didn't react, he would yell at me for ignoring him. It was truly persistent. He called my work cell phone frequently at night, and if I didn't call back, he would become furious. And when I did call back, he wouldn't answer. And he called me at times when people would normally be sleeping, showing his childishness. Then, he started piling on twice the amount of work, resulting in me having to work overtime until the early hours. every single day. The workload was so immense that I had to work on weekends just to keep up. I became chronically sleep-deprived and was constantly battling drowsiness. Then, one day, I finally made a mistake. Perhaps it was the drowsiness that impaired my ability to make sound judgments. I completely forgot the deadline for documents that needed to be settled, causing inconvenience to the other party. Alexander was thrilled to use this as an opportunity to criticize me publicly. And for that trivial mistake, I was demoted. I had been working with a bring-it-on attitude, but my spirit finally broke. Was there any reason to continue working hard in this company where such tyranny was allowed just because he was related to President Anderson? Even if I worked hard at the place I was demoted to, there was likely no chance of returning to the main office. It was just a matter of time. I convinced myself of this and resigned on my own terms. I felt a bit down, as if I had let Alexander win, but after a few days of good sleep, I started to feel indifferent. While doing some long overdue housework and watching TV, I heard the familiar name of the company I used to work for. Curious, I looked at the screen and saw the news that my former company had been acquired by a major corporation. I hadn't heard any rumors about it. I was honestly surprised. However, there was something even more surprising. For a moment, on the screen next to the acquiring company's president, Yvonne was sitting. It was just a moment, but I thought it was her. It could have been a mistake, but, well, it doesn't concern me anymore, and I went back to cleaning. One day, I received a call on my cell phone. It was from my former company. "Hello, is this Ryan?" "Yes, this is Ryan. How can I help you?" I had already completed all the paperwork for my resignation, so I wondered what they could possibly want now. "It's me, Yvonne. Have you found a new job yet?" "Yvonne, no, I was thinking of taking it easy for a while. Haven't started looking yet." "That's great," Yvonne exclaimed happily over the phone. "If it's okay with you, would you consider coming back?" Well, that's a tough decision, but why is Yvonne asking this? It was strange that a contract employee like her, and right after the company had been acquired, would call back an employee who had been forced out. When I asked her why, her answer was astonishing. Yvonne was the daughter of the president of the company that had acquired us. Though she was cherished since she was young, she had a strong sense of independence, so she disliked being seen as riding on her parents' coattails and chose to work at a company completely unaffected by her parents' influence. However, unbeknownst to her, her father had been advancing the acquisition, and she ended up working for her parents' company after all. After the acquisition, she became a regular employee, and since it had become her parents' company anyway, she decided to use her influence just this once and went directly to negotiate with her father, President Richardson. She expressed a desire to repay the favor to me and to work under me once again. "I've always wanted to handle things on my own. I couldn't help you when Alexander was harassing you because of me. I regret that. It might be too late, but would you work with me again? I appreciate the offer, but I'm disliked by Alexander. I might end up causing trouble for you again." When I declined, she chuckled on the phone. "Alexander, he's no longer with us. My father wanted to improve the company's atmosphere and quickly demoted him. Since Alexander hardly did any real work, his transition was swift and he was soon gone. Then, I might take you up on your offer. I'll be returning, but I'll work hard. Will you hire me again, Miss Yvonne, the president's daughter?" Yvonne, with a voice tinged with anger saying please, stop it, seemed slightly pleased. The rehiring process moved quickly, or rather, my resignation was as if it never happened, and the few days I was gone were considered paid leave. "Welcome back, Ryan. We've been waiting for you. We're sorry we couldn't do anything for you, even though you always protected us." Upon returning to the office, everyone welcomed me warmly, just like before. Yvonne also appeared from the crowd. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Yvonne, the president's daughter, but please continue to make good use of me as before. Laughter spilled from those around her as she energetically bowed. Thank you, Yvonne. Because of you, everyone can work comfortably. It's not because of me. It's your popularity, Ryan. I didn't mind being praised. I vowed to make the most of this opportunity and work even harder for the sake of my supportive subordinates. And there was another pleasant surprise. I was soon promoted to department manager. My daughter may cause some trouble, but I ask you a favor. Please don't indulge her, but train her well. There is pressure of president, but that's a separate matter. I have no intention of giving Yvonne special treatment. My only goal is to ensure that everyone can work happily. Your good deeds, the kindness you offer, and the love and goodwill you send out will indeed return to you manifold in various ways. Joseph Murphy. Hey, why are you even here at this shop? I don't think a place like this is meant for an incompetent high school graduate like you. That day, I was visiting my favorite upscale French restaurant with my work colleagues. I unexpectedly ran into Sophia, who had bullied me relentlessly at my previous company. Dressed in an expensive dress and wearing bold makeup, Sophia twisted her bright red lips and loudly berated me without any regard for the other customers. Could you please stop bothering me now? I said this, feeling utterly annoyed by the interruption of my enjoyable time. Shut up. Oh, by the way, I've been appointed as the next CEO. If you suck up to me now, maybe I could do business with your company. You'd better not sour my mood, you know. Just then, a man in a fine suit appeared and Sophia's face turned pale. My name is Jason. I'm a 28-year-old company employee. My father passed away in a traffic accident when I was still very young. He was taken from us by a car that ran a red light while he was crossing the street on his way to work. Losing our father so suddenly, our family was left in shock, unable to accept his death. I have little memory of how we managed to stabilize our lives after that. Moreover, the offender in the accident was driving without a license and insurance, adding insult to injury. Due to the offender's blatant disregard for the law, we were left with no choice but to accept the situation, as we could not expect any compensation from someone with no ability to pay. This added to the burden of my exhausted mother. Despite our dire circumstances, my mother always said we couldn't afford to wallow in sorrow. She worked multiple jobs, like cash register duty at convenience stores and supermarkets, to raise me and my two younger brothers by herself. My father had left us with a small amount of life insurance, but it was barely enough to support me and my two younger brothers. Growing up in such conditions, I was determined from a young age to ease my mother's burdens as soon as possible, deciding to work right after graduating from high school instead of pursuing further education. Deciding to work was one thing, but the actual job hunting process for a high school graduate was incredibly tough. The industries open to high school graduates were limited, with most job postings in caregiving, apparel, and the food service sector. However, the wages offered in these sectors for high school graduates were very low, which was a significant concern for me. I was desperate to find a job that would pay well enough to provide some comfort to my mother. When I heard from a career guidance counselor about a job opening at a local major construction company, I was determined to secure the position at all costs. The construction company had far more positions available for college graduates, and the openings for high school graduates seemed almost like an afterthought. But I couldn't afford to let this opportunity pass, so I worked closely with the career guidance counselor on my resume, studying for the entrance exam and preparing for interviews. I managed to pass the document screening and found myself in an interview alongside numerous college students. But I couldn't afford to be intimidated. In the interview room, I was faced with what appeared to be the company's CEO, a gentle-looking man, and 3 other executives or HR personnel. I looked straight ahead and started my self-introduction. Then, one of the executives, Scott, asked me a challenging question with a smirk. "It seems you've worked hard in your studies at high school." "Yes. But wouldn't there have been other industries more suited to a high school graduate? I'll be honest. The work here is quite demanding and requires further study. Why did you choose our company?" I clenched my back teeth and, looking straight at the smirking executive, I said, "I was raised in a single-parent household. I wanted to work for a prestigious company like yours to learn about society from the seniors here and grow into a responsible adult. All for the sake of my mother who raised me." Hearing my strong resolve, Mr. Williams, the company's CEO, who had been quietly listening until then, spoke up gently to reprimand the harsh executive. "Scott, it's not nice to pick on the young ones. But Williams, he's just a high school graduate." "Enough of that. You're Jason, right? Thank you for your impressive answer." "Yes." The CEO then smiled at me. "Our company values interpersonal relationships the most. We hope young talents like you can learn and grow into respectable adults here." With those encouraging words, he gave me a push forward. Filled with hope from those words, I left the interview room. When the job offer arrived at home later, it was a beautiful memory to celebrate with tears of joy alongside my mother and siblings. There were many new hires that year, so Williams probably doesn't remember me, but I will always be grateful for his warm support at that moment. I was overjoyed to be working under him. 7 years later, having built my career, I've made steady progress as a high school graduate. Since joining the company, I was assigned to the construction management department, spending my days in rigorous training, both on-site and studying for certifications. There were moments when the intensity almost broke me, but I managed to grin and bear it. Thanks to my incredibly supportive colleagues and senior employees who taught me a great deal about the job. Last year, I even experienced supervising a major building construction project, intending to continue in the technical field. Surprisingly, I was exceptionally promoted for the sales department, which is also a highlight of the company I had long hoped to join. My department colleagues and seniors were surprised by this unusual move, cheering, "It's a big promotion." I, too, approached the sales department door with high hopes. The sales department is a gathering of elite college graduates, handling negotiations for large contracts that could significantly impact the company's fortunes. From day one in the new department, the pace was dizzying, but my colleagues were all kind and took the time to teach me the ropes, allowing me to complete on-the-job training OJT within a few months and start managing my accounts. I got used to making courtesy calls to clients and even managed to secure a few small deals, diligently working my way up. However, there was one person who persistently saw me as a thorn in her side. A senior employee named Sophia. Sophia, an elite with a degree in architecture from Harvard, has been on a fast track to success since joining the company. Her sales performance is impressive, and she's often mentioned as a future executive or CEO. I had thought her character would be as outstanding as her achievements, but I was sorely mistaken. From the first day I greeted her, Sophia openly mocked my educational background. "I'm Jason, newly assigned to the sales department. I look forward to working with you." "You must be joking. You're a high school graduate, right?" Yes." "Oak, the worst. Why would a lowly educated high school grad be assigned to the sales department? That's a bit harsh. This is the face of the company. A low-educated person like you doesn't belong here. It's the worst having to work with you. What are you doing here so confidently? You should have told HR that you were not capable enough for a sales position." I was taken aback by her outright disdain and insults about my education from our first meeting. Since then, Sophia started dumping her work on me as if I were her personal assistant or slave. One day before a meeting, "Hey, high school boy, copy these meeting documents and take them to the conference room. But that's not my job. What? You dare defy me, a high school grad? Fine, I'll do it. At another time, just before the end of the workday. Hey, I don't have time to prepare tomorrow's meeting materials, so you do it tonight. Tomorrow's meeting materials, but that's not my task. Just do it. Bring them first thing tomorrow morning. You know what will happen if you don't, right? Understood. Like this, I was swamped with her tasks on top of my own, leading to endless overtime and reaching my limit. Yet, I was starting to find fulfillment in my sales role, building trust with clients. Then, an incident occurred. One day, as usual, Sophia abruptly stopped me and handed me some work. Here, this is your job, so take care of it. What? Please hold on. I was astonished when I saw the documents, my eyes wide with surprise. They were for a crucial negotiation set for that afternoon, vital for the company. What's the matter? It's your responsibility, so make sure you do it well. Though, being a useless high school grad, preparing at this point might be futile. I doubt it'll go well, but do your best. Sophia sneered at my panic and walked away. In a rush, I skimmed through the documents and prepared what I could. Heading to the negotiation venue, of course, the outcome was disastrous. It was a negotiation for a large shopping facility construction project, and I was embarrassingly unprepared. With no finalized concept or visual designs, I was reprimanded on the spot. Understandably, the client was furious, saying, "I've never been so insulted like this," leading to a significant complaint. At that moment, all I wanted to scream was, how was I supposed to handle this with just a few hours' notice? Later, back at the company, I was called in by Executive Kevin and reprimanded for the mishap. Why did this happen? Didn't you realize how important this negotiation was? I was assigned to this negotiation task just this morning. I had no time to prepare. Shut up. No excuses. But it's true. It's hard to believe Sophia would do something like that. Blaming others like this is disgraceful. I tried to tell the truth, but the executives, being close to Sophia, wouldn't listen to me, leaving me in despair. Consequently, I was dismissed for causing significant damage to the company. In other words, I was fired. On my last day, as I was clearing my desk, Sophia looked at me with a smirk. I feel refreshed now that an incompetent like you is gone. Her final taunt and laughter as I left were etched in my mind. That's how I ended up leaving the company I had worked at for 8 years. 5 years later, I found myself in a high-end French restaurant for work. This famous restaurant, located in a prime location on 5th Avenue, served dishes prepared by a skilled chef using the finest seasonal ingredients. The upscale restaurant has a bar attached to it and one private room for VIPs in the back. I was sitting at a table with a few colleagues, enjoying delicious wine and food while having a lively conversation. Then, from the entrance, I heard a voice saying, "I had a reservation today under Sophia." The person guided by the staff was the very last person I wanted to see again, Sophia. Upon noticing me, Sophia's face turned sour. "Hey, why are you even in this place?" "It's been a while, Sophia. I don't think a place like this is for incompetent high school graduates like you. You haven't changed a bit, even after all this time." Dressed in an elegant dress and bold makeup, Sophia, with her bright red lips twisted, loudly confronted me without regard for other customers. The waiter, flustered by the tense atmosphere, tried to guide Sophia to her seat, saying, "Excuse me, your seat is in the back," but she ignored him and continued, "What are you even doing now, after being fired?" "I'm here with work colleagues today." "Oh, really? I wonder what kind of bottom-tier company took you in. Are you trying to show off by coming to a place like this?" Can you please stop bothering me?" I said, utterly annoyed by the disruption of an enjoyable moment. "I'm not bothering you. It's just the worst having a high school grad like you in the same space. Just leave." "That's ridiculous." "Shut up. I've been appointed as the next CEO. Maybe if you suck up to me now, I could consider doing business with your company. Wouldn't want to upset me, right?" "I'm not interested in that." Despite my repeated rejections, Sophia kept pestering me. "Don't ignore me, you incompetent high school grad. Are you even listening to me?" As Sophia stood beside me, looking down from her lofty position with a smirk, I was utterly disgusted. Despite the delicious dishes laid out on the table, Sophia's loud complaints soured the atmosphere. I decided to ignore her and continue my meal, deeming her words unworthy of a response. "Don't mess with me. Your presence is making me sick. Just leave." As Sophia raised her voice in anger from being ignored, CEO Williams from my former company appeared from the back. "Mr. Williams." I thought I recognized Sophia's voice, but what on earth is this commotion? "Well, it's just that." "Come on, you're disturbing the other guests." "Oh, isn't that Jason? Good to see you." Greeted by him, I responded in kind. "Likewise, it's good to see you. It's quite a coincidence to meet here." "Indeed. Thank you so much for reaching out about the new project." As we engaged in a friendly chat, Sophia, standing beside me, staggered back in shock, completely dumbfounded. "Mr. Williams, what's this all about? What do you want to know?" "This guy was fired from our company for being incompetent. Why are you, Mr. Williams?" "Hey, Sophia, watch your mouth. Jason is the sales division head at the major general contractor, K Construction, and also an executive officer." K Construction." Hearing the name and position at the company I work for from Mr. Williams, Sophia turned pale and started trembling. After being fired, I was recruited by K Construction due to my track record and experience from my previous job. Although my time at my previous job ended prematurely, I was assigned to the sales department at K Construction, where I have continued to achieve the top sales performance nationwide since joining and have climbed up to an executive position. I had met Mr. Williams at a dinner before and have been in good terms with him since. The first time we met, I had told him about working at his company and being fired 5 years ago. To my surprise, he had no recollection of firing me or any memory of such an incident. He mentioned he had no recollection of ever dismissing an employee for misconduct. Without digging into Sophia's past, I avoided the topic and shared how the words he once said about valuing human relationships within the company still empower me today, which pleased him greatly. I credit my ascent to an executive role to his teachings. I participated in various dinners to communicate with a wide range of people, valuing my interactions with individuals both inside and outside the company. By doing so, my sales performance significantly improved, leading to achievements that culminated in my appointment as an executive. That's ridiculous. Impossible. How could such an incompetent high school graduate become an executive at K Construction? Facing Sophia, who was muttering in disbelief and turning pale, I spoke up. "Sophia, you're still discriminating against people based on their educational background, I see. Of course, that's obvious. People without a degree are just incompetent. You're still saying that. You might want to reconsider that viewpoint. Judging people solely by their education and not seeing their true worth is a flaw for a leader." "Shut up. Why should I be lectured by someone like you? Can you say such a thing? What do you mean? You haven't forgotten about tomorrow's negotiation with our company, have you?" "What, that's..." "If someone who could potentially be a business partner behaves like this, we can't trust them enough to work together. It seems best to cancel our meeting tomorrow." "No, wait, please wait. I decided to cancel the meeting the next day, appalled by Sophia's persistent focus on educational background without seeing the true essence of people and her unchanged condescending attitude. "Jason, what's going on here?" "Mr. Williams, I'm sorry. I think it's time I tell you everything." Surprised by the exchange between Sophia and me, I shared with him the harassment I had endured from Sophia while working at his company. At that time, Sophia hid my work, and I couldn't do anything about it. What a terrible thing to happen, but why didn't you tell me at the time? I did inform the executives, but they didn't take me seriously. I thought I'd let it go and forget about it. But seeing Sophia's condescending attitude as soon as we met again made me lose my patience. "I see. I had no idea, and I deeply apologize." After hearing my story, he apologized, but Sophia clung to him, desperately trying to make me out to be the villain. "Mr. Williams, it's not true. It's all his fault. Don't be fooled." "Sophia, be quiet." He sternly reprimanded Sophia with a fearsome glare. The next CEO thing is now back to square one." With that, he walked away, leaving Sophia collapsed on the floor. After a while, Sophia staggered out of the restaurant, escorted by a staff member. I apologized to the chef and my colleagues for the disturbance and reset the atmosphere to enjoy the delicious food and drinks. Later, I heard from Mr. Williams that an internal investigation was conducted regarding Sophia. Apparently, there were quite a few employees who had experienced similar harassment from Sophia, some of whom had kept detailed records. Various misdeeds such as power harassment, human rights violations, and labor management violations were brought to light, and like me back then, Sophia was severely reprimanded in the executive board's disciplinary committee and was dismissed on the spot. Despite her cries of innocence until the very end, overwhelmed by the disdainful glances from many employees, she left the company as if fleeing. "Jason, I'm truly sorry about this incident. We've purged the executives who were complicit in Sophia's power harassment and are planning to start over and improve the company's environment. It's not about getting an apology from you, but I appreciate that you believed my story and even went as far as to conduct an internal investigation. I haven't forgotten the kindness I received from you. I would be delighted if we could work together again someday. Although this incident resulted in the cancellation of our current project, I expressed my sincere hope to collaborate on significant projects with his company under its new management, and he was receptive to the idea. As an executive, I am committed to continuing to contribute to my company's success and to strive every day to become a fully fledged professional. I work for a major travel agency, and I'm 28 years old. My name is James. My wife, Lisa, is the same age as me. We met during our student years, started dating, and got married after we began our careers. Even after marriage, we decided to continue working until we had children, so Lisa kept her job at the bank where she worked before we got married. After finishing my usual customer service tasks, I was doing some paperwork when a new customer walked in. Instinctively, I greeted them and headed towards the entrance, only to find Lisa, who was supposed to be at work, and a man I didn't recognize standing beside her. The two of them were cozily nestled together, like a couple. Come on, this can't be happening. I had always believed that infidelity was something that would never touch my family. But that belief was my mistake. We had been married for 3 years. We had been trying for a baby since right after we got married, but had not been successful. Work got busy, I got a promotion, and our time together dwindled. I would often come home late, help out at other stores, or work on weekend, and our opportunities for quality time together became rare. I started to fall asleep from exhaustion more often, and naturally, trying for a baby became a lower priority. Lisa had always talked about wanting children, and I felt guilty about it. So, I decided to have a serious conversation with her after dinner. "Hey, there's something I want to talk about. It's about having kids. What's up? You've always said you wanted kids, but I've been so busy lately. I want to be more supportive, but with the promotion and the busy season coming up. I see. It can't be helped. You're doing great at work. Yeah, sorry about that. It's okay. It's not your fault. I had gathered my courage to discuss this, but that was the end of the conversation for Lisa. I was happy that she seemed to understand my busy schedule, but in hindsight, her response was too casual for someone who had always wanted children. I should have realized something was off then. Lisa had always been meticulous about her appearance because of her job at the bank, but even I, who couldn't tell the difference between makeup trends, noticed that her style, hair, and overall vibe had changed. She seemed to have become more polished and attractive. I once commented, "You've been dressing up a lot lately. What's up?" "Is that bad? A beautiful wife makes you happier, right?" she replied. Honestly, Lisa was beautiful, and thinking of her as my wife made me even happier. I convinced myself that she was doing all this for me and fell for her even more. But now, I realized that her sudden change was too drastic. After the peak season, when the foot traffic at the agency settled down, I managed to leave work a bit earlier than usual. Lisa usually finished work before me and rarely worked overtime, so she was typically home before me. However, one day, I came home to find the lights off. Lisa wasn't home yet. I thought it was unusual but didn't think much of it. However, this started happening more frequently, and Lisa's return time got later and later. When I texted her, she often took a while to reply. "Worried?" I asked. "You've been coming home late recently. Did something change at work?" She sighed and said, "Well, it's not exactly a transfer, but my workload has increased. I've been doing nothing but overtime lately. It's getting to me." I knew I wouldn't understand the details of her work, and there might be things she couldn't share. I had been neglecting our efforts to conceive, and since I usually came home later, Lisa had been taking care of most of the household chores and meals. I wondered if I had been putting too much strain on her. Thinking it was time for me to support her, I made up my mind. For my beloved wife. "It's tough, huh? I'll do what I can, so let's work through this together." "Really, it's been hard lately, so that would be a big help. Thank you." From that day, I took on more household responsibilities and started cooking dinner whenever I got home early. I learned from the internet and cut books. And although cooking for someone else was new and challenging for me, I found it enjoyable. It felt like a way to make up for neglecting our efforts to conceive and to give back to Lisa. I even managed to become more efficient with our grocery shopping, though I wouldn't say I reached the level of being frugal. Around this time, our schedules aligned even less, and our intimate life became almost non-existent. Lisa started going out more on weekends, often not returning until late, with various excuses. Gradually, I found myself taking on more of the household duties, including cooking, cleaning, and laundry. But seeing Lisa heading out to gatherings, saying I wanted to get promoted and needed to network, I couldn't bring myself to say anything, considering I had also burdened her with my own ambitions for promotion. Not being familiar with the banking industry, I assumed such networking was crucial, and given her superior performance, I thought it best to let her do as she pleased. A while later, when I ran into one of Lisa's colleagues at the supermarket after work, the conversation took an unexpected turn. Although we weren't close, I knew the colleague from previous outings with Lisa. "Ah, good evening. You're Lisa's husband, right?" "Good evening. Yes, I am. Long time no see. I'm glad I didn't mistake you for someone else." As we made small talk, her colleague mentioned something that caught me off guard. "It's really nice that both of you are into cooking." "Pardon?" I asked, surprised. The colleague looked puzzled. "Lisa has been really into cooking lately. It's amazing how she's beautiful, good at her job, and even cooks special dishes for her husband. She even left work on time today to cook. Today as well. Yes, isn't it? Are you out getting some missing ingredients? He asked with a smile. I was momentarily speechless, confused by the mismatch between what was being said and what I knew. My basket was full of groceries, making it hard to come up with an excuse. Today, I'm cooking one dish, and, I'm also stocking up for when I cook next. Haha, I managed to say. Still puzzled, I hurried home, half expecting Lisa to be there. But she didn't return until late, as usual. Sorry for being late again. I had something at the convenience store, so I'll eat what you made tomorrow, she said, putting the side dishes I had left out into the fridge. The fridge was mostly stocked with groceries I had bought. I hadn't seen Lisa cooking for a while now. This is when I began to suspect infidelity. Though I started to doubt Lisa, I wasn't sure what to do at first. Wanting concrete evidence, I eventually decided to hire a detective to investigate her for possible infidelity, setting the investigation period for 1 month. Unable to take time off work and with our dates becoming a rarity, I spared no expense, hoping for a clear resolution. While I had a detective working on the case outside, I decided to do some investigating of my own at home, albeit with a sense of guilt. I wondered what I'd do if I found photos or something incriminating, but no new discoveries came to light. I searched in places where things might be hidden, even reaching into the back of the dresser, but found nothing. Maybe it's just my misunderstanding, and she's really just busy with work. While meticulously searching everywhere, I found something unfamiliar at the bottom of the bedroom trash can. It was a strip of pills. I didn't recognize the shape of the strip, but upon searching the name of the medication written on it, I discovered it was a contraceptive pill. While not definitive proof of infidelity, it was puzzling why she would use such a thing when we were trying to have a child. It seemed unlikely that a guest would dispose of contraceptive pills in our bedroom trash can. It had to be hers. Though our intimate moments were rare, they existed, partly in hopes of conceiving. Finding the pills, I was almost certain of her betrayal. A month later, I visited the detective agency in person to receive the investigation report, preferring this to potentially risky postal delivery. The findings confirmed my suspicions. The investigator provided a detailed chronological explanation. I had decided on the scope of the investigation myself, but I was somewhat carried away by the suspicion of infidelity, so I was surprised at how thoroughly they had conducted the investigation. It seemed the other party was a senior colleague from her workplace, but I was astounded by how they hadn't noticed being followed, having their conversations recorded, and being clearly photographed. It's unfortunate, but I found it ironic when told this. On the night she didn't return until late, she was either dining with this man or visiting his place. Well, it was mostly hotels, actually. At this point, I couldn't help but laugh. I also felt a self-loathing for not having noticed it all along. But given the circumstances, I couldn't stay with her anymore, nor did I want to. I decided to hire a competent lawyer and start preparing for a divorce. Fitting this in between work without arousing suspicion was challenging, but having solid evidence sped up the preparation process more than I expected. Then came the fateful day. Lisa mentioned she'd be leaving home earlier than usual. I'm going on a business trip to a branch a bit far away, she said, without me asking. I smiled and wished her a safe trip. That day, I was also heading to a different branch in the same area, but since Lisa skipped breakfast and left early, our departure times didn't coincide. And then, during work on that day, Lisa appeared at my workplace with a man from the detective's photos. Come on, you've got to be kidding. It wasn't the shock of encountering the affair that made me think this. It was the sheer audacity of them showing up at a branch where I might be working. Maybe we should go abroad. I'd love to relax at a resort hotel. Really? Then, let's do that. Their sickly sweet voices were unbearable. I intervened with a smile. Have you decided on your travel destination? We can tailor a plan to suit your needs. What? Lisa froze. She stared at me, her face growing increasingly rigid. I guess she only knew about the branch I initially worked at and hadn't kept up with my occasional shifts to other branches. Choosing this branch, of all places, showed a lack of thought. Thank you. My girlfriend and I were just discussing going overseas. Is that so? I'm sure you'll have a wonderful trip. Please, have a seat here. As I offered a seat at the counter, the man sat down without any suspicion, seemingly unaware of Lisa's delayed reaction. Thank you for considering our agency. My name is James. Could you tell me about your preferred destinations and budget? Well, we don't want to go too far because of work, but we're thinking of a resort destination, right? Is there something wrong? No, just whatever he said. Lisa's behavior was clearly off, but she tried her best to sound composed, choosing to play along. How about Hawaii? The plan would depend on what you're looking for. For example, I maintained a professional demeanor. The man was quite enthusiastic, discussing flights, hotel classes, and locations. Given their age group, their requests were quite lavish, and I meticulously tailored and aligned a plan to their needs, while carefully avoiding letting Lisa speak too much, focusing more on the man's opinions. Lisa seemed intimidated by my unwavering demeanor. Maintaining a facade of planning a lovely trip for a couple, the plan quickly came together, leading to an agreement. At the perfect moment, I delivered the punchline with a smile. So, all we need now is the contract. Thank you. Enjoy your wonderful affair trip. What? An affair trip, right, Lisa? How can you say it's an affair to a customer? Because I'm Lisa's husband. You could just ask her, couldn't you? Lisa turned a remarkable shade of pale. While Lisa seemed confused, the man next to her was even more clueless, floundering with saying, what? The fault lies with them, after all. Before the shock wore off, I leaned in close to the trembling Lisa and whispered, we're getting a divorce. Draining even more color from her already pallid face, Lisa could only look at me, utterly terrified. Then, I promptly assured the bewildered pair out of the store, saying, please leave now. It was truly refreshing. Although my colleagues were initially puzzled, they believed my story thanks to the trust I had built up through my work, and after some sympathy, I was allowed to head home early. So, I decided to contact my lawyer and wait for Lisa's return at home. As I enjoyed a relaxed dinner at home, I heard arguing outside, followed by the doorbell. Opening the door, I found Lisa, disheveled and tear-streaked, apologizing profusely with the other man. I'm so sorry, what we did was unforgivable. Stop it, just stop. It's you who needs to stop. Apologizing is the least you can do. They started arguing again at the doorstep. To avoid causing a scene, I let them in and heard them out in the living room. It seemed the man was misled by Lisa, who had apparently told him she had broken up with me because I was a man with nothing to gain except money. Regardless, the fact remains that we had an affair. Please allow me to compensate you, the man said. Ignoring him, Lisa, half in a huff, muttered, if you hadn't said anything, there'd be no proof. It could have been dismissed as a misunderstanding. Hold on. I interjected and brought out copies of the evidence photos I had planned to confront her with, placing several of them in front of her. Pictures of them kissing passionately, entering and leaving hotels, embracing each other, all unmistakably incriminating. Lisa, turning as pale as she had in the afternoon, screamed and covered the photos with her body. Why? I don't want this. No. The man kept repeating, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I knew about this long before he showed up today. I was prepared. I'm not as naive as to casually visit the branch where your husband works, I told her. Lisa then fell silent, her face flushed with embarrassment. I might have been harsh, but I wanted to speak my mind. As I said earlier, we're getting a divorce. It's already decided. Hearing this, Lisa burst into tears. I had never seen her so emotional, and I felt nothing but disdain for someone who cries and screams over being caught in wrongdoing. Afterward, I sent Lisa away with only the essentials and switched to communicating through the lawyer. The divorce was finalized swiftly. Lisa seemed to have planned to be with the man, but he, being decent despite the affair, rejected her. She even ludicrously inquired through the lawyer, "If we don't get divorced, do I not have to pay alimony?" The lawyer explained to her that wasn't the case. And she seemed to understand, not being particularly unintelligent. I decided to believe the man's word since he appeared sincere. And so the divorce proceedings were complete. Regarding what happened next, Lisa apparently lost her job due to the scandal, as trust is crucial in her field. She hadn't confided in her parents, who were proud of her banking career, and was now deceiving them. I hadn't shared the details with my former in-laws. I felt bad for them, but have grown so averse to anything related to Lisa that I glossed over the truth. I slightly pity any man who might get entangled with her in the future, especially since rumors suggest she's now in debt from her lavish spending on fashion, dining, and travel. I've made sure our mutual acquaintances are aware, reducing her potential support network. I haven't found a new relationship yet, but thanks to Lisa's neglect of household duties, I've become quite adept at managing chores and am enjoying my single life. I'm even considering a solo trip. I'm now living a contented and happy life without any hardships.